All right, everyone, welcome back to the Old Republic podcast travel logs. Last we left you, we were just headed out from Nar Shaddaa. We'd done some business there. We'd gotten some leads on some of the missing Jedi, and we're on our way to our next location, which is Onderon. So we have that set into the Navicomputer. We are ready to go, but there is a stranger on board. Looks like she might want to kill our protagonist. Not a good look, Cassia.
No, and Krea's not happy about the intruder either, and who is it but the one and only Visas Mar?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Visas Mar has come on board. I guess she detected kind of a schism in the Force and needed to go and investigate that. So says her master Darth Nihilus. Go check that out, and that led her on board the Ebon Hawk. So when we get back, ready to leave Nar Shaddaa, she is there, and we do a little bit of battling. But we let it slide. We don't end her life, which she asks Mitra Surik to do, spares her, and Visas Mar, holds that kind of in high esteem, right? She really respects that decision and decides she wants to switch allegiances to join the team and to help us on our way.
Yeah, I love that there's no option to kill Visas Mar, because I don't know, it would have been a waste because she's such an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is an interesting character, and she has a really interesting story, which is kind of one of the themes for Knights of the Old Republic 2, is that all of these characters have a really kind of interesting backstory you can dive into. So, who is Visas Mar? Visas Mar is a Mira Lucan who come from the mid-rim system of KOTOR. What do we know about that? So, basically, Atris is the one to blame for all of this. All of this bad news, maybe of KOTOR 2, maybe Atris is to blame. So, a little bit of history here is after the Great Jedi Purge, Atris held a conclave in KOTOR. Kind of to get the Jedi back together, but mostly to rile up the Sith Triumvirate and draw them out of hiding. And sometimes if you try to agitate the Sith Triumvirate and draw them out of hiding, they come out of hiding and kill everyone on KOTOR, except for Visas Mar, who becomes then Darth Nihilus's apprentice. So, bad news, bad idea, Atris.
Yeah, and there's an old comic in the old legends that is very fascinating to see, that kind of tells that story, and it is brutal. And it just kind of goes to show, like, Visas, like, kind of had everything taken away from her. Like, it's just black and white. Like, There was nothing left.
Yeah, very much so. We talked a little bit about kind of in that that KOTOR 2, I love you sort of thing, where we were talking about kind of the different relationships in KOTOR 2. So I think that it really speaks leaps and bounds when you have kind of that backstory that, basically she was turned to the dark side because of, kind of the actions of the Jedi, that she's able to, kind of see the potential greatness and the potential for peace and restoring the galaxy within Mitra Surik here at this confrontation, and, switch allegiances and ultimately, kind of lead us back to Darth Nihilus, later in our journey, which we'll talk about at one of these travel logs at some point. But I think that it speaks really highly of, kind of the respect and kind of the admiration that Mitra Surik is, gaining throughout the galaxy as we're going through here on our travel logs.
Yeah, and it's an interesting travelogue, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting that we're going to a location that kind of has 2 for 1.
Yeah, exactly. So, as I mentioned, we are on our way to Onderon, but sometimes when you get to your destination, you're going to run into some trouble. There's going to be a little bit of a firefight, a little bit of a skirmish. Onderon has kind of like its, I don't know, there's like a blockade kind of on the outside of it, and long story short is we are going to have to crash land onto Dxun. Dxun is a moon of Onderon, aka the Demon Moon, and yeah, it's a scary place. It's fraught with danger, and it's filled with Mandalorians.
Yep, lots of Mandalorians there, which means we're going to meet another character who might be a returning character from the first KOTOR.
Yeah, absolutely. So we crash land there, and we make our way eventually into a Mandalorian camp, and we are led to the leader of the Mandalorians, Mandalore the Preserver. Cassia, who is Mandalore the Preserver?
Mandalore the Preserver is a Mandalorian in shining silver armor, and it's the one and only Canderous Ordo.
Yeah, that's right. Canderous Ordo is leading the Mandalorians here at this camp. And, you know, we spent a lot of time with Canderous in the first Knights of the Old Republic game, so it's kind of interesting that we are getting, I guess, not technically reunited because these are new characters that's there, but it's interesting that his story arc carried him, you know, back to the people of Mandalore to lead them as, you know, kind of as Mandalore the Preserver. So we get some kind of fun interactions there with them. We learn a lot about the Mandalorian culture and kind of the way that they're doing things, how they ended up on Dxun in the first place, as they're, you know, kind of scattered to the wind after the aftermath of you know, the wars that have been going on. But I think that it's fun to reunite with Canderous, and luckily Canderous is a pretty nice guy and offers to help get us off of Dxun and down to Onderon, which is, you know, where we were first meant to be going in the first place. But Cassie, let's talk about Dxun a little bit. You know, it's kind of this forest thing. There's a bunch of scary animals there, kind of reminiscent of Kashyyyk if you think about it that way. But are there kind of interesting story bits or things that you like when it comes to Dxun, or things that you like to explore, or anything like that?
It's just interesting to see the Mandalorian camp for sure, and it's interesting to see how far Canderous's character has come, like being Mandalore the Preserver. You get to see, like, I guess more of the caring side. He's not just like, let's do steroids and, like, take over things, you know? Like, he's more caring about his people. And also, this is the planet, or I guess moon, where you learn the ability beast control.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that it's, you know, it's pretty interesting, you know, meeting Canderous, because any other Mandalore probably would have taken one look at you and said, hey, you're that person from the war we've been fighting all this time, not going to help you out, and probably much worse than that. So, yeah, so it's luck was on our side that Canderous ascended to the role of Mandalore here. And yeah, I'm with you. I think that the most interesting part of Dxun for me is just kind of exploring the Mandalorian encampment. You're learning kind of about their way of life, their way of, you know, doing battle, and how they suss out who are the best of the Mandalorians. There's kind of some fun, different little, like, side missions that you can go on where you're, you know, trying to break into like weapons depots, and one of the Mandalorians is, like, lost and stranded. You have to go kind of help them. So I think that there's a lot of really fun kind of little story beats that you can kind of glean from Dxun that revolve around, you know, exploring and learning more about the Mandalorian culture. And I think that that is pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, could they have predicted the Mandalorian show? And, like, just, like, there's a whole rich culture of Mandalorians, you know? But this is we get another part of the roots, you know, where the Jedi kind of struggled, the Mandalorians kind of struggled, but they're still here, you know?
Exactly, yeah. For sure, they are still there. They're trying to get their group kind of back together and lick their wounds, I guess, so to speak, after the fallout from you know, all of the fighting in Malachor 5, and, you know, everyone having to kind of flee and do their best to protect themselves within the galaxy. So I think that that's pretty interesting. And yeah, luckily for us and the team, Canderous is Mandalore the Preserver. He offers to give us a ride down to Onderon because apparently he needs to go to Onderon too. Has some business to do down there. So he's going to accompany us down there. He can get us through the blockade, which is always good. And we are on our way to Onderon and its capital city of Isis. Have we ever seen Onderon or Isis before?
Yes.
It's kind of this jungle planet, and then Isis is this big walled city, which is awesome. But where have we seen it before, Cassia?
Yes, we have in the Tales of the Jedi comics and in Clone Wars Season 5 in the arc where Anakin and Ahsoka train the rebels on Onderon, and that's actually Saw Gerrera's intro to canon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It made its appearance there in Tales of the Jedi, and then very important kind of now, especially as we're watching Andor and we're learning more about Saw Gerrera. So yeah, this is where Saw Gerrera is from, and that's a really great kind of arc of Clone Wars if you want to get more of the feeling for Isis, the Onderon, the planet, the people there. That's pretty fun stuff, I think. And like I said, how do we get there? We were trying to go there the whole time, but Canderous flies us down in the shuttle. He's going to tag along there as we're going through. And I think that this Onderon Isis thing is really kind of interesting because you land, I don't know, kind of in this like open air market landing zone kind of thing. And then it's like border patrol, right? If you want to get into Isis, you need this pass to go in, and you need that same pass to get back out of there, which I think is really interesting. But we have some work to do in Onderon / Isis. We need to find Jedi Master there, because word on the street is that Jedi Master Kavar is there, and we need to go find him.
Yeah, Kavar is probably my favorite of the Jedi Masters. He just seems like the most open, and I guess from a superficial point of view, he's also a bit handsome. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. If you're going to be out, getting the scattered Jedi Masters, I guess Kavar, you could do a lot worse than him. And we do find him, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on within Isis. I mentioned kind of the kind of this border control sort of system that they have going on, and that's been implemented a lot because there's kind of this political schism going on within the walls of Isis, right? You've got Queen Talia there, who's kind of on one side of this political leaning. You've got General Vaklu, who is there, who's kind of on the opposite side of this political leaning, and it's kind of coming to a head where the people of Onderon are deciding if they want to stay in the Republic or not. What has the Republic ever done for the people of Onderon, you might ask? So that's kind of where the people of Onderon are. Everyone's kind of fractured down the middle, and I think that's pretty interesting because we don't get a lot of the political intrigue, but we definitely get some here in Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of get some politics where there are different partisan sides, and you can side with one side or the other. And it's kind of like light side, dark side as well. But it's more complex than black and white, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mentioned, we're here to find Jedi Master Kavar. Jedi Master Kavar has basically taken the side of Queen Talia. Canderous, Mandalore the Preserver has, kind of on the side of General Vaklu. So you get some kind of interplay there as, Mandalore is, kind of learning the truth about kind of what's going on, and there's some really fun stuff. But are there any kind of side stories or missions or kind of things, story beats from Isis that you find particularly interesting, Cassia?
It was cool to kind of visit a location that I'd only kind of heard about from the Tales of the Jedi comics. So I don't know if I really remember, any side quests, but the main quest is really cool and Queen Talia is a cool queen. Kind of reminds me of the political situation on Naboo, in The Phantom Menace. So that's what I kind of like. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all the political stuff I think is super interesting, and kind of the way that you ultimately find Jedi Master Kavar is you have to do like this investigation because one of your contacts has been falsely imprisoned, so you get to do kind of this like investigation sort of segment and try to piece this stuff together, and it all revolves around the Isis Cantina, which is the best cantina around. It has the best tunes, which you hear every time you listen to the podcast, because that's the outro music is the Isis Cantina tune that we have going on there. So I like that stuff. I like I said, I like kind of this political intrigue, political prisoners, and kind of this fractured city, and everyone's kind of on one side or the other, and you have this crazy strict border policy, and people are trying to buy and sell their way off of this planet basically because it's under like a complete lockdown. I think that is just really interesting and kind of a neat thing that kind of stands out for me in a way that some of the other locations don't necessarily. It feels more, I don't know, you get some kind of like political intrigue kind of stuff like on Nar Shaddaa, but somehow it feels a little bit more like personal, like it's actually affecting the way that the story is going, other than you're just kind of observing it in a way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I always think it's a cool layer to the Exile's story that we get to choose which way it goes.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what we've got going on here in Onderon and the capital city here of Isis. We do eventually meet up with Jedi Master Kavar, who's going to go back, and we're going to be reunited with him as we're going around all the different locations and trying to reassemble this team of Jedi, so to speak. But we're kind of on to kind of the next section here of what we've been liking to do with these stories, these little travel blogs, because Knights of the Old Republic 2, we think of it a lot in terms of kind of like a novel of work, kind of like an academic storybook, and we think that kind of the way that Knights of the Old Republic 2 is set up is kind of like this the purgatory and atonement type of a story. So Cassia, let me ask you, what do you think about Dxun? What do you think about Onderon in terms of Mitra Surik's atonement and purgatory story? Do you think there's any themes there, or anything that is representative of purgatory story? But what do you think?
This is something I kind of just recently thought of, but maybe the exile kind of has to go through the Mandalorian Wars in a microcosm again and take sides, and all of the characters kind of take sides, and you kind of have to figure out what's right, and maybe is there truly a right answer, So that's what I kind of thought, is they kind of are reliving the past a little bit and kind of gathering more of the characters, the broken characters together. That's what I saw. Yeah, for sure. So we've done a couple of these now, and the first couple we did, I saw a little bit more clearly in terms of what I thought they represented in terms of this atonement, purgatory type story. But I think that this one, for me, it wasn't quite as clear cut, but I think that this is kind of a direct correlation with the second level of purgatory, which is envy. Not quite as clear cut, but there's some good parallels here. So the sin of envy is described as the grudging hatred upon another's good fortune, and that seems to me basically like what's happening during a war, right? You're begrudging the other side of these people in a war, and we just so happen to be through kind of this blockade and this skirmish sent down to the forest floor of Dxun and into the encampment of the Mandalorians, right? The same people that Mitra Surik was fighting
against in the war. So I think that that is definitely something that ties into, grudging hatred upon another's good fortune. So you're kind of, face to face there. And I think there are kind of two other aspects. So if you're reading like Dante's Inferno, so two of the aspects of the second level, which is envy, is despite the fact that you're going through this stage of envy, you're hearing voices speaking of generosity, and I think that is what Mandalore the Preserver is doing. Like his voice, he's being generous despite kind of this atrociousness of war, and being it ahead with his own people. He's still speaking generously of you, helping you out, helping you find transportation down, and ultimately on your first, or on your way to Onderon to kind of complete your mission. And then the other kind of aspect of this stage is that the lost souls have their eyes closed and they're kind of blindly following and being taught to follow. And I think that we see that kind of within the walled city of Isis, is that all of the people there are kind of blindly choosing a side in this kind of political debate. You're either with Queen Talia or you're with General Vaklu. There's really kind of no in between. There's no listening to the other side, the other political ideas. So that's kind of what I see here in the Atonement Purgatory sort of section of this travelogue.
Yeah, that's a good point, that the exile was literally fighting against the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian Wars, but she gets on well with Canderous, and Canderous ends up joining her party. And like how that would impact her purgatory story, know? So there's always a lot to think about, and maybe all of this wasn't really thought about necessarily in the writing, but I think it can become part of it, like the interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. When you're kind of thinking about a story that's like you said, it's hard to say, like in the writing room of KOTOR 2, if they were really thinking about this nuance, or they're just trying to tell a good story, but the things we can kind of glean from it, and from the way that the characters are interacting and the story that's being told and the characters' backstories and the way that those puzzle pieces kind of intertwine, and the way we can think about them within our own heads and on podcasts like these, I think is definitely pretty fun for sure. So good news is, Cassia, mission accomplished. We met a Jedi Master Kavar, which was what we were going to Onderon for in the first place. So did that. Good job to us. We met a Mandalorian friend along the way. Visas Mar is on our side now. I think it's been a pretty successful trip to Onderon.
Yeah, I forget just how many characters join your party in this section, but I'm a fan of all of those characters,
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a fan of those characters. And we're going to be picking up another character on our next location, which is Dxun. So we are going to be plugging that into T3's mapping system, plugging him into the Yebben Hawk, and we're going to be on our way to the next destination. So I don't know, Cassia, any closing thoughts on the city of Isis, or anything else you want to throw out there?
If you can, watch the Rebels Ascending section of Clone Wars Season 5 on Disney+. It's a really good arc after you play through KOTOR 2, the Dxun and Onderon section.
Yeah, absolutely. Give that a watch. It is a really good one. And thanks so much for joining in on our KOTOR 2 travel blogs. These have been a lot of fun to put together, and hopefully you'll tune in for the next one when we finally set down in Dxun. So thanks so much for coming along with us, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.